Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Ogrodowski of WeAreChange.org, and in this specific video, I wanted to talk about the terrifying reality of the internet of all things, the smart grid, 5G, smart dust, and a lot of other technological advancements, which are pretty much just another word for the surveillance state that is being built all around us. And to talk about this, plus a lot more, we have Max Egan, who is a political commentator and philosopher. And Max, I do have to ask you, sardonically, of course, before we get into the smart dust and 5G, but Max, aren't these new devices like the Amazon Echo and the very new Facebook Portal and the even newer Google Home, aren't these just incredible devices that make our lives so much easier and so much more convenient? What's wrong with these things, Max?
Yeah, look, they're very convenient for the surveillance state, that's for sure. They're very convenient for you to be monitored in every aspect of your life, if that's really what you want. Very convenient for controlling all the information you get as well. People don't have to go and find anything out anymore. They can just ask their Google Assistant, and all the information will be filtered and government approved, so we know it's the truth. You know, you can see where we're going with all this. It's quite shocking, really, that people are just taking to it all and willingly buying the surveillance to put into their home themselves so the government can track every move that they're making. Pretty shocking. And you see how some of this stuff... There was someone who their whole conversation that they had over kitchen was sent to someone's boss or whatever. Google just decided that you wanted me to send it there. And the boss rang up and said, hey, listen, I've just got a whole conversation of you and your wife had over the kitchen table because your Google Assistant thought that you wanted me to have it. So how much of this is going on? You know, who's it sending all the information to? What's it recording? When's it recording? And who's it sending it to?
Yeah, and the implications are terrifying on many aspects, not just from the obvious mass data bulk collection program that the United States has, with the government pretty much looking into everything that you're doing. A lot of people have forgotten about the revelations released by Edward Snowden, but yes, that's a reality. But even just beyond that, the actual realities with the technological advancements, they're blurring the lines between what is right and what is absolutely terrifying. I mean, if you just look recently, we have even CNET reporting that your Alexa and your Fitbit can testify you in a court of law. And we saw this already tested in the United States with a recent murder crime investigation by the police and prosecutors who wanted to subpoena the Amazon Echo records of a suspect that they thought murdered his friends. And if you know, Amazon takes record and recordings of you, stores it through a third party, and then reserves the right to delete it later. This local police department and prosecutor's office wanted those recording, and the suspect actually said, you know what, I'll just hand them over. Amazon actually denied the request publicly. But also we have to understand here, this is a small local case, and it's the same Amazon that is interconnected and does work with and does have contracts with the U.S. Pentagon and also the CIA. A lot of people look at Jeff Bezos. He is one of the most richest men on earth for a reason, and his tentacles really spring not only to Whole Foods, but into a lot of other dark, scary areas of our society. Amazon's also working on AI facial recognition technology that they're giving to local police departments, that they're also giving to ICE, but yet no one in the liberal leftist kind of activist sphere or even the mainstream media, they're not even talking about that specific aspect. They're also working on decrypting online algorithms and the blockchain and cryptocurrency so they could easily track who has what cryptocurrency and what they're using it for. And very interestingly, in this case, the police and prosecutor's office actually looked at another smart device, the Bates water heater, and found out that this guy who they suspected murdered his friend was using more water in the early mornings, which led to investigators believe that he was covering up the crime. And this is becoming all too much of a reality. And Max, I wanted to ask you, is there any way of escaping this reality?
Well, by not using the tech and not buying smart devices and alerting people to what's happening, you know. See, all these sorts of things are compounding all around the world, you know. With what you're saying about, you know, Amazon wouldn't release the data. Well, if that was in Australia, Amazon would be compelled to release the data because they've got legislation which demands that they do. Otherwise, Amazon will be held culpable. And so the United States can get that data released through the Five Eyes Treaty, which is an international intelligence gathering treaty, a sharing of information between 5 countries, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, England, and the United States. So through the Five Eyes program, that could, if that transaction happened in Australia, or even through that, I mean, they could just do it through the Australian legislative system, through whatever deal they've got with Amazon, tied in that way. They've got to release it to the Australian government because there's legislation demands they do. We have no Bill of Rights in Australia, and through this treaty, all this sharing of information, the United States government can get access to that detail anyway through the Five Eyes Treaty, get access to all that information through the Five Eyes Treaty. It's the same as all the digital strip searches you're subject to when you come to Australia or New Zealand now as well. This is so that you can get contravene and bypass the laws in Canada, in England and the United States by simply doing it through Australia and New Zealand. And when you look at how all this data gathering has gone on anyway through the Echelon program, which has been going on a very, very long time, all of that data that's collected, all of those conversations that are recorded, all go through Echelon. The main Echelon servers are in Australia and New Zealand. It's been done for a reason. So all of that data is automatically accessible by the Australian government and the New Zealand government anyway. And through the Five Eyes, they can simply share it with an information request from the United States. So they get the information anyway, even if Amazon says they won't comply. They have to through the Five Eyes. There's no way around it.
Yep, and it's not just government that we have to look out for, wanting, of course, total information, total control of every aspect of your human existence. It's not just those criminals. It's also just petty criminals and real-life criminals who get your information by hacking it. Facebook just announced this new device, the Portal device. They just got hacked a few days ago, where 50 million accounts were compromised. Same with Google Plus and Google and the Alphabet Corporation, which of course is connected with Eric Schmidt, the Bilderberger, Hillary Clinton connected guy. They just released the Google Home Hub, and just today we're finding out that Google Plus, their code was compromised, and it allowed third-party app developers to access private information about the people who use this platform. So it's not only just the criminal aspects of government, but also just regular criminals who are getting your information on the dark web because these corporations don't give a damn and they're able to just do whatever they want. And it's definitely a collusion. And I do believe, Max, that they're kind of using the private sector as safety. In reality, they are really acting on behests of the government with all the participation, with all the contracts, with all the intertwined relationships that they have between each other. And to me, I want to get your analysis on there. To me, there's a bigger collusion between these tech monopolies and government than we even know about.
Oh, there is. You've got to really look at it as all being one entity. It really is. Like I said, the things that they're rolling out in different countries, you look at how the Five Eyes applies to the United States and all that sort of stuff. Look at the social crediting system they're bringing into China, which is horribly scary if you really look at the details of that. I'm sure you have. The whole policy of there will be no dark corners anywhere in China. Everything you do is tracked and you're awarded social credits in real time. Even if you cross the street, according to the wrong way, jaywalk, you'll lose a social credit point, all that sort of stuff. But what you buy on the supermarket shelves, they're doing this with Amazon Go now. You pick up a cupcake, you decide you don't want it, you can put it back on the shelf. It knows in real time that you're doing that, and you'll be judged on what you buy. That's the way it is in China. They say it could never happen to the West, and now we read that Apple is awarding devices trust scores on your device, depending on what you browse for and what you do. But of course, the devices are operated by people, so it won't be long before it changes over to people, and it'll be people that are being awarded the trust scores. We've got legislation in Australia coming in now saying that if you owe any money in taxes, you won't be able to travel overseas. They'll pick you up at the airport, say, oh, you owe us, you're at $15 out on your tax return. You can't travel until you pay this money, whatever it is that you owe. We've got situations in South Africa now where they're also bringing this into access the internet. If it's found out that you owe any tax money, you can't access the internet. So you bring all this together. Look at South Africa and who runs this. This is actually run by England. Britain runs so much stuff that people don't realise. So these are all tying back to the same sources. They're just doing little bits in different countries to see how it works, what they can get away with, and eventually they merge it all together. This is where we're going, And through all this, everyone's distracted. Everyone's distracted with all these wars and conflicts going on. QAnon's going to come and save the day. Trump's going to save the day. Mass arrests, sealed indictments, all this sort of stuff. Even with all that, if that even happens, which I doubt, but even if it does, it makes sense they would do that anyway. If you look at stuff like Blavatsky, the externalization of the hierarchy. So many people have lost faith in the system now to such a degree that the only way you're going to be able to get people to have any faith in the system at all is if you find some of these criminals, publicly expose them and hang them out to dry. Now, whether they'll even go to jail, whatever, once they're out there and we've seen all the news reports and they disappear from the public eye, who knows what happens to them? They're probably going to live in the Cayman Islands or wherever, go off to wherever it is that these criminals go and live so they can keep harvesting children the way they do. We never hear what happens to them when they're supposedly arrested and disappear from view. So all of it's theatre, but you've got to do this to restore people's faith in the system, to make the people think that the system's worth anything. But through all of this stuff that's happening, nothing is addressing the monetary system, nothing is addressing the smart grid and the surveillance state that's rolling out. And when you look at it and realise that it's 5G technology that they're using to run all this, the Internet of Things, where everything has an IP address so you can pick up that cupcake. The cupcake has an IP address. It knows that you've picked it up off this shelf. Do you really want to buy that cupcake? This is just so creepy, this sort of stuff. You tie all this together and see where it's going. It's horrendous where we're being taken. And every single thing that you do will be tracked and monitored, all down to social credit points. People will be squeezed out of the system by default if they don't comply. And it'll be the type of society where you can't even think outside of the box or question anything the government says, because if you do, you'll lose social credit points and be ostracised and get squeezed out of the system. So it'll be the ultimate control system if people let this come to pass. And it's all through the use of this smart tech, all this stuff that is so convenient for us. Willingly taking these phones around everywhere that track everything you do and listen to everything you say. Facebook does the same thing. If you've got a Facebook Messenger app installed on your phone is listening and storing everything you do, and sharing that information with whoever. And it's all there if they want it. And that's what they do when you come to Australian Customs or New Zealand Customs, is you surrender your phone and your laptop. You've got to give them the passwords, or it's a fine. They have the data stream, so they know everything you've done with that device. They can look at who you are, who your contacts are, and if you're someone of interest, they probably install some software on there so they can track you from that point. People that have gone through customs, got their phone back, and there's a little octopus on the screen that they never saw before that disappeared when they turned the screen on. So the customs installed something on their phone.
And it wouldn't surprise me if that happens, and it's absolutely terrifying. And the economic issues that you brought up are becoming more severe because of all of the economic news that we're hearing. They're all based on lies. We have so many bubbles. We have so many central bankers manipulating the systems. And when you really look at the raw numbers, it doesn't add up. Like we're like, it's coming to a point where the states are putting themselves so much in debt. The next inevitable step, which of course will be them trying to squash more control, more money, more tax revenue out of their citizenry. And of course, a lot of these big tech companies are doing it for profit motives. There's been a lot of interesting cases with people Googling things about being pregnant and then them receiving actual physical mail and coupons for diapers, and parents finding out that they were pregnant through the advertising that is directly targeted against them instead of their daughter actually talking to them. There's been so many different documented cases of that for profit, but really I'm happy we're examining the other aspect of it, because this could turn extremely bad for everyone. And it's not looking like it's getting better. It's looking like it's getting worse. The internet is, of course, a sword. It could be used for good. It could be used for bad. But right now, you could see the prison walls kind of building all around us, the infrastructure of a total control grid system being set up, and we're incentivizing it by using it. And I wanted to point out to a next article by Zero Hedge that is talking about how the governments are working more with tech companies in order to track crypto. Obviously, they're doing this because they want full control of people who are looking towards different things like cryptocurrencies, which, by the way, were an answer to central banking, and the central bankers are causing all these economic issues. And now they're like, well, we need more tax revenue. Let's go over everyone holding cryptocurrencies. So that's in the works as well. That needs to be talked about. There's another recent article about a veteran journalist who worked for PC Magazine who was fired for even criticizing 5G. And the 5G topic is becoming more and more prevalent. And I wanted to talk to you, Max, specifically about what you know about 5G and why people should worry about it.
Well, look, it's a concern because of the frequencies that it uses. It's military-grade technology. It's very damaging just in itself. It's going to be like we're living inside an airport scanner just when this frequency is operating. It's also very, very direct beams. Like with what we've got now, you're getting your information from a cell tower that's coming to your phone. It's just a random wave that goes out in a spread and you just pick up on one frequency of it. With 5G, it's all directed waves. So when you're on your cell phone, you're getting a directed beam straight at your cell phone from the nearest tower that is specific to you. And this goes for everybody that's using it. So it's a directed, concentrated beam going to you. This is very, very damaging. And plus, so that means it can be targeted and directed at people. And this is what they use for microwave cannons. It's what they use for crowd control. This can burn your skin. It's very, very damaging. It's military-grade technology. Every military application you can think of for active denial is carried out using 5G technology. So this is what they can do with this if they want to. Plus the fact that it's just so damaging to be around anyway. That's the problem with it. 5G is next level stuff. That's why they're putting these towers everywhere. They're going to be cutting down heaps of trees to put these towers everywhere because it needs line of sight as well. So it's very, very bad, Just go and look up active denial. Just Google 5G dangers. Everybody should look at this. A lot of people are actually having a lot of success with it as well. The fact that 5G is so dangerous is a real entry point for people who want to get involved, people who want to get active, because you can show that this stuff has been shown to be damaging. And then there's Tom Wheeler himself said we're going to not wait for the standards. We're just going to roll this out. So they've admitted themselves and not waiting for the safety standards. And we've had groups open up here in Australia. Have had a lot of success. We've had the In Power movement. It's had a lot of success in Hawaii and other places as well. There's a massive movement, I think, in southern Arizona where people are totally against 5G and they're driving it back and they're combating it because they need to get this in place. You need 5G there to have the bandwidth to run the Internet of Things, to get all this social crediting online. But it's the social crediting that is the bad part, like what you're saying about cryptocurrencies. This is another reason for the digital strip searches. Like if you've got a crypto wallet on your computer, they're going to want the keys to that because you've got any encryption, you've got to give them the keys to it. So if they see that you're carrying more money across a border than $10,000, which is what they'll do with crypto, then they're going to want to take everything above that $10,000 because that's the way it works. They'll just do that with cryptocurrency. That's one of the big things about it, that you can transfer a lot of money across borders without anyone knowing about it. So, if you're traveling through Australia or New Zealand, you need to get all of this stuff off your devices and store it on a cloud somewhere or store it on a server somewhere in an encrypted zip file and re-download it all when you get into the country and then store it back up in the cloud when you go through borders. Because this is going to come in everywhere. If it's coming in Australia, it's going to come in everywhere. They trial it here first. All Australia's got to do is run it for a couple of years and then publicly announce how successful it is and how wonderful it all is that we've done this. And all the other countries and all the media will pick up and say, well, we need to follow Australia's lead. Look at how safe it is there now. So that's all they've got to do is put it into the public mind and people will accept it. People will think it's for their safety. So you've got to look at where it's all going.
And then people are going to buy the specifically made device that the Australian police state device that they put in their homes with their cameras so they could feel safe. That's ultimately what's happening right now. People are literally putting the telescreens in 1984 all over their houses, all over their apartments. And I'm like screaming at them like, what are you doing? One of my friends, Will Chamberlain, he's kind of a Republican. I disagree with him on so many political issues, but he's a good guy, and I was staying with him, and he had an Amazon Echo, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why do you have this thing in your house? And I tried to notify him. I tried to tell him not to do it. He was like, no, it's great. It's so convenient. And then I just started trying to bother him. I was like, Amazon, go buy industrial-sized lubricant now. And then Amazon's, we have this industrial-sized lubricant for $100. Do you want me to purchase? And I'm screaming yes. He's screaming no. And I'm like, this is what you get for having this device at your home. It's not good for you. Anyone could use it. Anyone could use it for malintent, and also not even just the government aspect of all this and total grid. The hacking aspect is also extremely terrifying, and these big social media monopolies are not the best at protecting your data. They also sell it to the highest bidder, and this could be used against us in many consequences that we can't even foresee. Now, James Damore, who used to work at Google, who was fired for questioning some of their tactics, he brought up an interesting point that I wanted to talk to you about. He says, we know cigarettes are addictive and bad for you, society, so we put warning labels, tax on it, extra, and make it illegal for minors. And he says, imagine if we did the same thing for social media. Now, personally, I don't believe that big government regulation and control will be the answer here because, number one, they're not really incentivized in doing this because they benefit so much off of it. And two, I believe getting the information out is more important than ever about the consequences and the bigger realities that many people don't even dare to mention. And the people who are even talking about 5G, big investigative journalists, they're even being fired for it. So it's absolutely maddening. And I just wanted your comment on that. And also the smart dust. The smart dust. Forbes even wrote an article saying smart dust is coming. Are you, quote, ready? That also is just another terrifying aspect that people need to be made aware of.
Yeah, look, the smart dust that they're spraying in the skies is in everything. It's in everything. I mean, it's probably, you could even say it's what's in a lot of the food as well. There's a lot of nanotech in the food. So, you know, with all this, I mean, when you look at all the data sharing and the phones and all this sort of stuff, eventually it's going to be much more convenient to have a microchip. But they don't even really need to do microchipping. They can just do it through scanning your bioresonance and all that sort of stuff. Soon they'll have a miraculous way of doing that we've just found out that we didn't know we could do before, but it'll all be because we have nanotech in us and it's not telling us. So, you can see where all this is going. And what were you saying before that? What was the question before the smart dust?
The solutions aspects of this and notifying everyone.
Oh, yeah, we've got to notify everyone. The thing is with the smart grid as well and all the Amazon stuff listening to you, it isn't just, that you've got Amazon, whatever it is, Amazon Echo or the Google device or whatever in your home. It's your clock, it's your clock radio, it's your fridge. There was a guy in Australia arrested because his fridge was listening to him. Because everything that is smart has a listening device in it. And when it comes down to algorithms, that it just listens to the words. And when you say certain words and certain phrases that are termed to be the phrases that dissidents might use, then you will lose a social credit point without even knowing that you've done it. You might go to purchase an airline ticket and suddenly find that you can't because you're not qualified, because you're below on social credit points because of something you said in a conversation you had in your bed with your lover at night, but your clock radio was listening to you and didn't like where the conversation was going, so the algorithm penalised you. And once you get to a lower point, then the algorithm will notify the nearest police officer that there's a criminal in the area. And they'll just find you with their facial recognition glasses. Oh, there's Luke. He's down below on his social credit points. He needs to be picked up and he needs to be incarcerated for this amount of time, determined by the algorithm on what your social credit score is. And your purchasing power will be limited because you've been thinking the wrong way and saying the wrong things. This is the way it's going. That's what these devices are leading to. So people who get these devices in their homes so they can say that, order me some fish and chips, this is listening to you. Everything you say, everything you do, every private conversation that you have, essentially every thought that you have, is watching you and listening to you all the time. When you couple that with your digital television, which has got a camera in it, which is watching everything you do all the time, and your computer watching you all the time, they can turn on your cameras and your listening devices on your phone and watch you all the time. If there's 3 phones in the room, they can triangulate the room and get a 3D readout of how many bodies are in the room. Great if you want to tap in there and kill certain people and you want to know where they are before you go into the room if you're a SWAT team or something. All of this sort of stuff is capable through this technology. It will track everything you say and do, and it gets to the point where it's tracking what you're thinking. And even when you start talking in code, it's going to know what the code is. And when you start saying or doing things that the government does not approve of, then you're going to be penalised for it without even knowing that you're penalised. And with the 5G system, when that's in place, they might say, well, look, Luke's just crossed too many borders and said too many things and done too much stuff, which has really penalised his social credit point. So we need to subject Luke to house arrest. So they can target you for active denial so that everybody else can walk through the barriers around you, but you can't because your biofrequency is targeted. The 5G can target you personally because they're dedicated frequencies that can be dedicated to a single person. That's what 5G is all about. So people can walk across the street, but Luke can't. Luke can't walk past those poles because it burns him to walk past those poles. So Luke is stuck in his house. Luke's got to now order online through Amazon, but he can only buy certain things because of his social credit points. And we've got to see what he's doing online and see whether he can build his points back up to the point where he's an acceptable little boy and he's doing what he's told. And we might give him permission to leave the house and actually go to the shop and buy certain things. And if he gets good enough, we might let him travel again. And this is the way it's going, through the way you think and the conversations you have in your own home. That is where this is going. And if people can't see this and they can't see what the New World Order is, Trump coming along with QAnon and going to save all these people and have all this stuff and sanctions on Iran, we'll have another war, we'll do this, we'll change this, we'll restructure the parliament. It's all irrelevant rubbish because the New World Order is the smart bit. It is the tech. This is what it is, this surveillance state that is rolling out. And the stealing of all of our information as well, digitising it. All the libraries are closing down. It's all becoming digital, all controlled by Amazon, which will only publish what books it approves of. Those books that are government approved. Don't want disinformation, don't want fake news. It's got to be Google approved news. This is where it's all going. And even with that, you're burning all the information, getting rid of it. The first readers that they brought out was Amazon Kindle, remember? Or it was the Kindle reader. And now you've got Amazon Fire. They tell you what they're doing. They're burning all the information, burning the books. And soon you'll be locked out of that data. You'll be locked out of that information, locked out of everything. So that's where this is going. This is going to be surveillance like people. It's a nightmare of way even beyond Orwellian proportions. George Orwell couldn't even have dreamed that it was going this far. It's like Orwell on steroids. What we're facing.
And Max, it's not only a possibility, it's an actual reality that people in China are dealing with right now. And that's why the censorship that we're seeing on social media by Google and Facebook and Twitter going after people like me and you and other independent thinkers is just the small step towards the bigger step that we're all seeing here. And I thank you for calling this out, because just a few years ago, we saw everyone talking about the implantable chip, the mark of the beast, and freaking out about that. What we have right now with 5G and this smart dust is far way more beyond and sophisticated than just a microchip in your hand. They don't need a microchip in your hand. They are far more advanced than we know. Max, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this program. Always a pleasure and honor to have you on. The link to your website will, of course, be in the description below. Thank you so much for the information download. And if you guys found this video helpful, please share it with your friends and family members. Get this information out, because less and less people are actually talking about these issues. Why? Because these big tech monopolies that are a part of all this, that are cooperating with government, are of course shutting down the voices. It's already being done with the algorithms that are predictively programmed to go against people like this and videos like these. Your support, your help are more important than ever, and that's why I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.